Hey, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us, everyone. I'd like to introduce our speakers tonight and give you a bit of a rundown on what we're planning to talk about. It is strawberry blossom time, and it seems like it would be great to talk about what to do at blossom time. Blossom time is pretty critical because, of course, where there's a blossom, there's a berry, and that's what we're all about is growing some strawberries. So tonight we have with us Rob Spencer, and Rob Spencer serves as an advisor to the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association and brings extensive expertise in horticulture and agriculture. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, majoring in horticulture, and a Master of Science in Plant Sciences from the U of S. He has over 17 years experience as a commercial horticultural specialist at Alberta Agriculture, and he founded Spencer Horticultural Solutions in 2020 to provide a tailored consulting service to help growers across Alberta and beyond. Currently, he is dedicated horticultural instructor at Olds College, and he's authored and edited 4 significant horticultural manuals and numerous industry articles, and he is a sought-after speaker for agriculture and horticultural events across the prairies. Rob lives with his family in Olds College in Alberta, and his passion for horticulture thrives both professionally and personally. So welcome, Rob. Rob, thank you for joining us. We also have with us Laura Atherton tonight, and Laura is a co-owner of Fieldstone's Fruit Wines, an entrepreneur driven by passion, collaboration, and she's also a bit of a marketing expert. Along with her family, Laura operates an Alberta-based fruit winery specializing in distinctive berry wines that celebrate the rich flavors of locally grown Saskatoon's raspberries and strawberries. Yay, strawberries! Fieldstone Wines partners with fellow Alberta farmers for other berries, reflecting Laura's deep commitment to community and collaborative agriculture. Under the previous owner and her leadership, the winery has earned multiple awards and is recognized for innovative product development, including creative wine cocktails and non-alcoholic beverage options. Laura is dedicated to elevating Alberta's agritourism industry and invites guests to experience the charm of her winery through seasonal events, berry picking, and interactive community experiences, otherwise still known as agritourism. She's hosting a grand reopening on June 21st from 11 to 5. So if you're down in the Strathmore area, take a drive out and have a visit to Fieldstone Fruit Wines. So thank you, Laura, for joining us tonight. Also, we have Richard Staples. Richard Staples is a third-generation farmer at the Jungle Farm down by Innisfail, and it's a family-run produce and U-pick destination in Red Deer County. It has been in operation notably since the late 1800s, and he is following in the footsteps of his great-grandfather's pioneering spirit. Richard has earned an applied degree in horticulture from Olds College and has stepped into a leadership role overseeing the agronomic innovation at the farm. Deeply committed to both community and education, Richard has played a key role in developing innovative programming, including field trips, group tours, a CSA program, hands-on U-pick experiences for families and schools, and he's championing the farm's evolution, expanding a greenhouse-grown raspberry operation, and keeping the traditional U-pick staples like strawberries and raspberries thriving for Alberta customers, of which numerous thousands of them arrive on their doorsteps for U-pick season every year. A proud Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association member and our current vice president, Richard emphasizes the importance of agritourism and farm-to-table connections. So thank you, Richard, for coming on board tonight and being here. And last but not least, myself, Tam Anderson, and I do run Prairie Gardens and Adventure Farm. We have grown U-pick strawberries since 1988 on our farm, and it has varied from 2 acres to 12 acres at some points, and we're sitting at about 5 acres this year. We have lots of experience and have done just about everything possible wrong, but we've also done many things right, and we've learned a lot over the years, and happy to share all of our experiences with you all. Notably, our farm was finalist in the World Agritourism Championships, and we're top 10 in the world. So that was a really fun day to hear that. And of course, Catherine Durgaska joins us from her office, and Catherine is a seasoned digital marketing expert with over 8 years of experience in helping small businesses and organizations grow through brand development and strategic content creation. As our communications and administrative coordinator for the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association, she leads marketing and outreach efforts that elevate the visibility of Alberta producers and supports agritourism growth across the province. With a Bachelor of Commerce, Catherine brings both business acumen and heart to her work. Her career spans food, chemical, and facility management, where she developed a strong foundation in operational strategy and stakeholder engagement. She is also currently building her third small business driven by a passion for entrepreneurship and community impact. An active community builder, Catherine has secured grant funding for heritage initiatives and supports multicultural engagement through her volunteerism. Her work is guided by a deep commitment to connection, inclusion, and meaningful progress. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And welcome anyone who's tuning in at some point later to learn about strawberry blossom management. So this evening, we thought we'd talk a little bit about ourselves. So the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association has been around as long as I have in the business and longer, since 1984, I believe. It is going to be our 40th anniversary next year. So looking forward to pulling something together for that. Our mission is to work to connect farmers and consumers. We support a profitable and sustainable farm direct marketing industry through advocacy, education, promotion, and cooperation between growers. And I would have to say, in this industry, it's so nice to have so many people that work together and share what we know to help everyone learn and grow and have success with their businesses. Our members cross quite a wide stance, actually. Anybody that sells farm direct and is involved in agritourism can be a member of the association. Our members offer farm direct sales of a diverse range of agricultural products, including strawberries, vegetables, grains, beef, and agritourism experiences. So today's topics, we're going to touch on marketing, and that's Catherine's wheelhouse. Bloom, blossoming tips and tricks, and also pest control, and that will be in Rob's wheelhouse. And Richard and myself have a few things to offer, I think, in terms of what to do at strawberry blossom time. Catherine, am I turning the mic back over to you now?
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic.
So marketing. Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine, and I'm the communications coordinator with the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association. My work involves connecting directly with farmers across Alberta, developing content, planning events, and helping build stronger marketing systems for the association and its members. Tonight, I want to offer you practical, actionable marketing strategies. Things you can actually start using on your farm this week, and not just abstract theories. So first up, understanding your customer. Your typical you-pick customer is likely a family with young children, or a couple seeking a wholesome weekend outing, or even a foodie who loves local produce. What do these customers value? Well, freshness, the local experience, and a connection to their food. They're often willing to pay more for the right experience. Think of your farm as an experience, not just a place to pick strawberries. Is your signage clear? Is parking obvious? Do people know where to go when they arrive? Even something as small as a shaded bench or a selfie spot can upgrade their visit. Now let's talk about branding your farm. Branding isn't about having a flashy logo or expensive packaging. It's about building recognition, trust, and emotional connection. Think of it this way. Your farm already has a brand. It lives in your signs, your social media posts, the buckets your customers carry, the receipts you hand out, and even how you greet people at the gate. The question is that brand consistent? Are you using the same colors, fonts, and logo across everything? From your website and Facebook page to your market stall or you pick signage, do people walk away with the same feeling every time they interact with your business? If your farm were a person, how would you describe its personality? Is it family fun, local gourmet, or wholesome simplicity? Because your visual identity should reflect that clearly and everywhere. A simple brand identity guide can help. It's just a one-page sheet that outlines your brand colors, fonts, logo rules, and tone of voice. It's not just for designers. It's a tool that helps everyone on your team stay on the same page. Think of branding as your farm's handshake. Make it strong, familiar, and memorable. Now here's a pro tip you didn't ask for. Snap 5 quick photos of different brand touch points. For example, your signs, Facebook posts, receipts, product label, website header, and ask, what would a stranger know these all come from the same place? That's your first brand audit. Now let's talk about something farmers don't always like to talking about, money. Too often, you pick farms underprice their products thinking it'll attract more customers. But here's the truth. Underpricing hurts more than overpricing. It chips away at your sustainability, your time, and your ability to grow. You're not just selling berries by the pound. You're offering families a fresh air escape, childhood memories, a chance to connect with their food, and to support local agriculture. That's a premium experience. Your pricing should reflect it. Start with your real costs: labor, fertilizer, equipment, insurance, and marketing. Then price for the experience, not just the fruit. Offer tiered options to serve different preferences. For example, pick your own for hands-on families, pre-picked for busy parents, date night baskets with a few extras, maybe even a small blanket, a recipe card, and maybe a bottle of local fruit wine. I know one person that's in the audience that specializes in local fruit wine. We have the lovely Laura Atherton from Fieldstone Fruit Wines, located in southern part of Alberta, here with us. You can also help customers understand the value with a simple sign at checkout, such as, every dollar you spend helps us grow this local farm for your family and ours. Pricing isn't just a number, it's a message. It tells people how to value what you do, so tell the right story. Pro tip: price tags can't explain your worth, but storytelling can. Train your staff or write a blurb that answers the simple question: why is this $5 pint of berries worth it? Make the answer emotional, not just transactional. Here's a few ideas for you. Build a basic cost calculator in Excel or Google Sheets. Try this formula: total costs plus desired profit margins divided by projected volume equals minimum price. Consider bundling or cross-selling. For example, jam jars with fresh berries, creating a value pack. And lastly, here's a metaphor to help you remember this important lesson. Think of your pricing like your soil. It affects what you can grow next season. If it's depleted, your future harvest suffers. Price for tomorrow, not just today. Now let's talk about digital marketing, my favorite subject. Not as something fancy corporate strategy, but as a toolkit for real-world results. Whether you're a small family farm or larger operation, the truth is, if people can't find you online quick and easy, you don't exist. So, website essentials. Your website is your farm's digital welcome sign. Ask yourself this: can someone visiting your website for the first time find your UPIC hours, current availability, and directions all within the first 5 seconds? That's what they're looking for. That's what you need to serve up fast and clear. And don't assume people are sitting at a desktop. Over 70% of your visitors are checking you out from their phones, often while they're already in the car or planning a spontaneous day trip. So your site must be mobile friendly, easy to navigate, updated weekly during harvest season with what's ripe, what's sold out, and any special events or promotions. Even a one-page site can do the job if it's clear, consistent, and quick to load. Next up, local SEO and Google business. In other words, visibility, getting found online by the right people at the right time. One of the most powerful tools you have is your Google business profile, and it's totally free. Make sure your listing is claimed and verified, updated with your correct hours, location, and seasonal details, filled with fresh, high-quality photos. A picture of a happy pickers holding overflowing baskets goes a long way. Also, encourage visitors to leave a Google review. Just one sentence and a photo from a real customer builds instant trust. And the more reviews you get, the higher you rank in local search. Bonus tip: reply to every review, good or bad. It shows you care and boosts your profile in Google's eyes. Now, social media engagement. If your website is your welcome mat, Facebook and Instagram are your open gate. These platforms are where your farm becomes a story, not just a destination. Here's what works: behind the scenes posts, what's blooming, what's being picked, how you prep for the season. Customer stories, repost photos and testimonials. Event highlights, announce UPIC opening day, special weekends, or family-friendly promotions. And don't overthink it. Simple is great. Use your phone. Be real. Here are a few engagement boosters for you to consider. Show us your best UPIC selfie. Guess how many berries are in the basket. Winner gets a free basket next visit. You can also do polls. Which berries should we grow next year? These aren't just gimmicks. They turn customers into part of your community and into repeat customers. Final thought: you don't need to be a tech wizard. You just need to be visible, real, and responsive. Your farm is already full of beauty, story, and purpose. Your digital marketing just needs to reflect that. Think of your online presence like a farm sign on the highway. If it's clear, bold, and updated, you'll catch their attention. If it's missing or out of date, they'll drive right past. And lastly, is your business AI ready? Now, originally I was planning to touch on this topic tonight, but the more I prep, the more I realize that this isn't a 1-minute conversation. There's so much practical, game-changing information to share, and I want to do it justice. So instead of rushing through it, here's my commitment to you. I'll be creating a dedicated AI readiness workshop in the next few months, specifically designed for small producers and farm-based businesses. We'll cover how AI can help with things like automating customer follow-up, creating social media content, streamlining inventory and admin, and what you need to do in order for your chat GPTs of the world to recommend your farm or your products to people searching on these tools. Search engines will eventually become obsolete, so we need to get ready for that shift. It'll be real world, accessible, and focus on tools you can actually use. No jargon. Next up, let's talk about one of the most underrated tools in your digital toolbox: email. Social media is great for reach, but email is where loyalty lives. It's how you turn a one-time visitor into a repeat customer, and a repeat customer into someone who brings friends. Now, this doesn't have to be complicated. You're not writing a novel. You're just staying on your farmer's radar. A simple monthly or bi-weekly email works wonders. Here's what to include. What's in season? Let people know what's ripe and ready to pick. what's coming up, a sneak peek at next weekend special or events. A personal touch, maybe your favorite strawberry jam recipe or a photo from the farm this week. The tone needs to be friendly, casual, real, like you're writing to a neighbor. And here's the good news. You don't need a graphic design or a tech degree. Tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact are built for small businesses. They let you drag, drop, and send. Easy. Some even automate your emails for you. So when someone signs up at your farm stand or on your website, they get a welcome email without you lifting a finger. Bonus tip. Bring a clipboard to the checkout counter or you pick table and ask visitors if they'd like to stay in the loop. Most will say yes because they want to know when the berries are back. Bottom line, you've already done the hardest part. You got them to your farm. Now use email to invite them back again and again. And here's something you might not know. Email marketing has one of the highest returns on investment of any marketing tool out there. Some studies show it can return $36 for every $1 spent. That's no hype. It's because email reaches people directly in a space they actually check, and your email distribution list will always be yours. Not like your followers on social media. If your preferred social platform stops existing or bans you for whatever reason, all those followers will get lost, but your email distribution list will always remain yours. And here's the thing with email marketing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Before your season kicks off, set aside 30 minutes to build a reusable email template, just one. A basic layout with your logo, space for a photo, and room for 3 short updates. That's it. Then each time you want to send something, you just plug in the new info and hit send. It's a small investment that'll keep paying you back all year long. Collaborations and community partnerships. Here's a truth that's easy to overlook. You're not just growing food, you're growing a local economy. And one of the fastest, most cost-effective ways to expand your reach is through community partnerships. Think beyond your farm gate. Partner with a local bakery that uses your strawberries in their pies and tags you on Instagram. Work with a craft shop to host a pick and paint afternoon where guests pick berries and then paint their own jam labels. Team up with a tourism organization to be featured on regional food trails or visitor maps. These aren't just cute ideas, they're smart marketing. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine hosting a U-Pick and picnic day with a local food truck parked on site. Visitors pick berries, grab lunch, snap a photo, and post it online, tagging both you and the food truck. That's double the exposure, double the audience, and double the value without doubling your workload. And don't forget about nonprofit associations like the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association. We're here to help connect the dots, organizing farm tours, bundling local products for giveaways or events, promoting member collaborations in our newsletter and social channels. When farms, local businesses, and community organizations work together, it creates an ecosystem where everybody benefits. Bonus takeaway. Don't see other business as competition. See them as collaborators. There's room for all of us at the table, and when we lift each other up, customers feel it. So think local, think lateral, and ask, who in my area is also trying to reach the same customer, and how can we win together? All right, let's bring it all home. Tonight we covered a lot, but it all boils down to a few key moves. Know your customer and build your farm experience around what they value. Create a consistent brand so people recognize you, remember you, and trust you. Price with confidence because what you offer is more than a product, it's an experience. And finally, use digital tools like your website, your email list, your social platforms to stay visible and connected. Now, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, here's my challenge to you. Pick just one platform, email, social media, or your website, and give it a focused upgrade this week. Maybe it's updating your hours online, posting your next picking date, or building that first email template. Start small, but start now, because momentum, just like farming, is built one action at a time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. That was great. I was busy taking notes. I have now got a things to do list, even after having had strawberries for 40 years. It always is good to get reminded to think not only from your perspective as a farmer, but the consumer perspective when they come to visit. And sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that when you're busy planting and weeding and watering, but important things to do. I really appreciate your advice and guidance. It's going to be helpful going forward.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Catherine at all? Okay, we'll keep moving along.
So bloom management. So the plan for tonight was to have it in a format of FAQ. So we have several specialists, experts in that field in the room. And so at this point, Tam, I'm gonna steal the mic from you. And I'm going to ask the questions because you're one of the experts that's going to be interviewed. So, if Richard and Rob, if you could put yourself off mute, that would be great. And I'll be basically asking the questions, and whoever would like to chime in, please go ahead. It's supposed to be a conversational kind of format. So general bloom management. So my question to all three of you, and Laura, if you want to jump in, or anybody else that's in the audience, if you want to jump in, please feel comfortable to do so. If you have something to say, go right ahead. So how do growers precisely determine the ideal bloom window? And why does accurate timing matter so much in strawberry production?
Well, my comment here would be that the general rule of thumb is from bloom to berry, it's kind of about a month. And knowing when you're going to have berries is definitely really important, especially for a U-pick, to be able to start advertising and letting your customers know when you expect to have berries by, so that they are ready to come out then and pick then.
Okay.
Yeah, I really found at my farm that month from blossom to berry is such a great timeline. And there are definitely things that need to be done at blossom time. And we're out scouting in the field looking for bugs. And what we're looking for is the tarnished plant bug, most particularly in our area. That's the one that can do some pretty significant damage. And that little bug will come along and nibble off the pollen receptors in your flower buds. And you don't realize it at the time, but later when you go to pick your berries, you have misshapen berries and cat-faced berries and little buttons in them and very seedy ends. And they're not marketable. So it's really important to keep an eye on the tarnished plant bug at this particular moment. What we found is that if we are going to look at some control on them, it's really important to know how many there are and what kind of thresholds that we have that we should be taking care of. And the most important time is the kingberry and the secondary berry blossoms, because those are the biggest berries and have the highest value. And if you wait until all of the berries are blooming in the tertiaries and the quaternaries, it's a bit like closing the door after the horse has already left the barn. So you have to make sure that you get things done in a timely way. Rob, you'll probably have some comments about the tarnished plant bug.
I will indeed later on. Yep.
All right, next question. Do various strawberry varieties need distinct bloom management strategies, and how can growers customize their methods to these different varieties?
I know for us here, the biggest kind of change from is whether you're dealing with June-bearing strawberries or ever-bearing strawberries. With June-bearing strawberries, all the blooms kind of come before any of the berries start forming, or definitely before any of them are red. Where ever-bearing strawberries, you really need to consider as if you find you have anything that you need to spray and you're picking, you really need to be considering of the re-entry and pre-harvest intervals of those sprays, so that you're not so you're following the label of those sprays when you're needing to pick at the same time.
Yeah, in the case of June-bearing strawberries, what we find is that they typically bloom about right now, at least in northern Alberta, and definitely 2 weeks to a month earlier in southern Alberta. And so frost is the first real consideration of how you treat them differently. You have all of your eggs in one basket when you talked about June-bearing strawberries, because they all bloom at once and then produce fruit in that month window. And last year was the first year in all of the 40 years that I've been growing strawberries that we actually had a frost on June the 22nd. And that frost is just like a river. It flows downhill and settles in low areas. And we always make quite a concentrated effort not to plant strawberries in the lowest area, and always to choose kind of a side slope on a hill so that that frost can roll down the hill and keep going. But last year it settled into a corner of one field, and we darn well saw frost damage the first time in many, many years. And there's nothing you can do after the fact. Had we realized it was going to actually freeze, we could have set up irrigation and watered through the frost period. And we've done this in past years, where the sprinklers will run all night long at about a 1/16 of an inch of irrigation water with that nozzle size. And with the formation of ice creates heat, and it protects the flowers and the young fruit from freezing. And you keep running it, and the ice will come on the plants and be dripping off everything, and then it'll be quite a scene. But if you keep the water running until the ice melts off, your strawberries and your fruit are fine. So there's definitely that to have as a protective measure for frost. In the case of day neutrals, we find, on the other hand, that the plants flower and fruit simultaneously, and they keep setting flower buds through the season right through until fall. What happens to them, though, is if it gets too hot, they stop blooming. And so if it gets up over 30 degrees Celsius, they just stall out, and you don't see any new flower buds coming. And irrigation is, again, pretty important, because you can turn on those light sprinkles of irrigation water and cool the field down by leaf wetting as a possible solution. So irrigation, again, saves the day with the day neutral strawberries in the case of it being too hot in the summertime.
Nutrition and irrigation. So thank you for introducing that next subtopic. So which specific nutrients are most critical during bloom, and how should growers adjust their fertilization strategy at this stage? Insert G30 music.
I know for us, we definitely try to start applying. We usually do a full year spray of calcium, boron, and molybdenum around this time, as well as once we have some nice green berries. Those for us, those tend to be nutrients that the strawberry plants can almost always use more of in our fields.
Yeah, we find, especially on a dry year like this one, it's really hard to get nutrition into those berries unless you use foliar applications. If you've used your granular, if you don't have irrigation set up and you're waiting for rain, then you've been waiting all this time and still haven't had a chance to get some fertilizer on because there hasn't been a rain. So foliar applications are really, really helpful. And, we try and do that just prior to the fruit setup because we really don't want the residue of the foliar application of fertilizer onto the red berries. So timing is important.
Now, irrigation optimization. What irrigation methods or adjustments are essential during bloom to support optimal fruit set and berry quality?
I know for us, we do everything by drip irrigation. Overhead irrigation definitely has some chance of when the plants are blooming to promote some disease problems, because there are some diseases that start right from the blossom. Blossoms are a more tender tissue that is more susceptible to getting especially fungal infections that will stick around until the and affect the berries. During this time, you definitely want to make sure your plants have lots of water so that the berry formation, you get nice large berries and instead of smaller ones from lack of water.
Anything?
And of course, a strawberry is 80% water. So the most critical time is at berry size up. And, right now they're just starting to set berries. If we can give them that little extra boost of water at any time in the season, this is the most important time. And we'll get the sizing up of the berries before they start to turn red. And you do have that 3-week window before you start to see the color change. Once the color starts to change, it's you're not able to increase the berry size at that point because the ripening process has begun. But it's really interesting with the day neutral strawberries because so many of the blossoms come late in the season in September and October when you do have the cooler nights. And oftentimes people will say that Alberta strawberries are the absolute sweetest strawberries they've ever tasted because we have those beautiful long days and cool nights, and the berries take quite a long time to build sugars before they're actually red to pick. And if you've ever been berry picking in a warmer climate like BC or even Nova Scotia, the berry flavor just doesn't compare to Alberta strawberries. They're real sweet ones here.
Thank you, Tam. By the way, I saw the videos that you posted on Facebook on our page, on AFFPA's page. Maybe before Rob starts his section, I will show those videos once we're done with this section. Would that be fitting?
Of course, yeah.
All right, next up, pollination and bloom enhancement. So here's your question. How can growers actively enhance pollinator presence during bloom, and what practices yield the best results?
So one of the most important things is when strawberries are blooming, there's a good chance that you will need to spray for tarnished plant beetle. And there is a lot of those pesticides, those insecticides that are really harsh on pollinators. So either finding ones that are less harsh on pollinators or spraying in the early morning or late evening when the pollinators are less active are definitely important things to promote pollinator populations in the field. I know some of the other things that I've seen on other farms is planting a row of alyssum or a different flowering plant. This is kind of acts as double duty. They don't spray that row, and it promotes pollinators, but as well as it acts a host plant for some other biological controls for pests like aphids.
Yeah, I took a walk through the strawberry fields this week, and wherever I walked and the leaves were long, I saw lacewings fly up out of the grass and along the edges. So the lacewings are sure doing a good job this year of aphid control. I have a colony of bees that are right beside our strawberry field, and I was noting that actually you just need 2 hives for an acre of strawberries. And as Richard mentioned, strawberry blossoms are maybe not the favorite blossom of a bee, and they'll go other places if there's something that smells sweeter or is easier. And so the alyssum is a great idea to have a fragrant flower that brings the bees over to the patch. And then once they establish the route, then they come back and do their bee dance and let everybody else know where the blossoms are. So we're pretty careful to make sure we treat our pollinators carefully.
Nature is so beautiful. All right, next up, bloom density and quality. What bloom enhancement techniques or products can growers use to encourage stronger, denser blooms and ultimately increase yield?
What we like to use is a calcium nitrate foliar spray, and we find that the calcium really boosts both the size of the berries and also the strength of the stems that hold them. So we do that. And the other thing is we do cover the plants with straw for the winter. And strawberries themselves are actually hardy, but their blossoms are only tough to withstand a -12 Celsius. So if we don't cover them up with straw for the winter months, then actually you can lose half of your crop before spring just from the cold temperatures, and your blossoms freeze out of the crowns of the plants before they ever get a chance to bloom. That straw is very helpful later in the season too, because we pull it off the actual crowns, but we still leave it lying in and around the berries and the plants, just like you see so many fields of straw and berries, hence the name strawberries. But that straw keeps the berries up off the ground. So when the weight of the berries gets heavy and the blossoms kind of fall over, the berries are then sitting up high on the straw and not on the soil. And the soil is a real source for things like soft rots and botrytis. So it's great to keep those berries high and dry once they're ripe. And it makes it lovely for people to pick as well. They're clean and not splashed with dirt.
Richard, you wanted to add something to this?
Yeah, so like having larger, healthier plants is definitely going to give you stronger blooms and bigger berries in general. With June bears, they do set their blooms in the fall, so it's having a nice healthy plant in the fall going into the winter is very important for June bearing strawberries. To then have a nice bloom come June here to have a good yield in July.
Thank you. And we have 2 last questions. So weather adaptation and protection. So we have already touched on this, but let's focus on this question. What strategies do you recommend to safeguard blooms from adverse weather conditions like sudden frost or unexpected heat waves?
So I know for us, we use on our ever-bearing strawberries, we use row cover in the fall. Anytime it's forecasted that we're going to get a frost, we'll go and cover up the rows of ever-bearing strawberries. And that has allowed us to have strawberries the last quite a few years right up until about the end of October.
And how about heat waves? How do you protect your berries from that?
We we hope we have enough water that we can make sure they're nicely watered and can make it through the heat wave. And just with the drip irrigation, we don't we have been experimenting with, there are some kelp or seaweed products that claim to have to help with drought resistance, and we are experimenting with some of them, but I can't say whether whether we've seen a huge difference in them or not. And we're using quite a few of them this year, especially. So it'll be interesting to see if we can notice a difference with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. We don't have that luxury of a lot of water. We just have spring runoff that we catch in dugouts, and we water sparingly when we absolutely have to. The straw is one of the key things for us. It just moderates the soil temperature a little bit better and keeps that subsurface moisture in. This year is one of the drier years we've seen, and so we started plotting on a graph where we are in the grand cycle of the drought and rain sequences. And this year, I think, it seems like it's always the driest year before it's the wettest year. And with climate change, it's more and more prevalent where you get those big zigs and zags of both heat and drought at the same time. And so we've started now changing and moving our fields around in crop succession based on that drought possibility. And on very wet years, we'll plant on the hilltops, and on very dry years, we're planting a little lower down so that there's some soil moisture available to them. So just kind of working with the land and keeping an eye on that long range forecast and whether it's going to be an El Nino year or a La Nina year, and seeing where we are in the big cycles of the droughts. So I think we're heading into a really hot, dry year this year. So hopefully I've jinxed it and turned it into rain this weekend, but it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on.
Thank you. And last question. How can growers adapt their bloom management practices proactively to accommodate unpredictable or shifting climate patterns? Might be repeating ourselves here, but if there's anything else that you would like to add.
So I think the biggest thing to be proactive is scouting your fields, getting your boots on the ground and walking through your fields to see what's happening. So, knowing when those first blooms come out and when you're in full bloom, and knowing what pests are out there, doing soil or leaf tissue or sap analysis for the nutrients in the ground and in your plants can help significantly with making sure your plants have all the nutrients they need. And definitely planning to try to have that infrastructure to have enough water on dry years like we've had recently is another thing to try to help mitigate some of those any unexpected things that happen in a year.
Thank you.
Yeah, we find that getting a jump on the head start of the season is really important. Strawberries like cool roots to get established, especially on their planting year. And if you can get them in the ground in April while it's still cool, they really can get well rooted and established and are much better able to withstand seasonal fluctuations of heat and also drought. And even water, if it rains too much, they're better set. If you wait until June to plant your strawberries, now you're up against it because you're battling the heat and the drought, and the roots are not well established. So timing is important, and getting straw on them is important. So that's all of those things adding up to trying to keep those fields well managed is very very, very good efforts to try and hedge your bets against the unpredictable weather patterns that come our way.
Thank you. So that's the end of this section. Anyone has any questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll give everyone a few minutes to think about the questions that they have. And yes, next section we will be discussing pest control, and this will be presented by Rob Spencer. And while everybody still thinks about if they have any questions for our panel here, I will just ask Rob to share his presentation. And just a note to everybody, we did some tests prior to the start of the webinar, and we noticed that if your view is on top, you're going to miss, there's going to be something that's going to be cropped at the bottom. So make sure that your view is actually on the right, the switch to the side view, basically, to make sure that you see the whole screen.
I can't share my screen until there you go. Now I can.
See. Yeah, I had to stop the sharing before you could go ahead. So now I believe that we can go ahead.
Okay, is that showing up right?
Yep, I believe so. Does everybody see Rob's presentation?
Okay. Laura's giving me the thumbs up, so I'll take that as a good. Okay, I don't know if this is what you were asking for, but this is what I'm doing. So I want to talk a little bit quickly about the different insect pests and diseases that are common, when they occur, why, which stages might be targeted in terms of the most important stage, or which part of the plant might we be targeting in terms of application of control products. And I've got some sort of general or different specific management strategies for each of them. So I'll just burn through this, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Oops, I guess I won't do that thing. All right. Okay, so first thing I wanted to show you is this very busy slide, but it's important to understand that in each of the, whether you're looking at diseases or insects or disorders or other like abiotic type problems, it's important to understand the interaction between the host, the pathogen, and the environment. And each one of those influences how much of a particular problem is going to be there, and how you need to react, I guess, is how I look at this. Is that if you have the host, hopefully you're going to have the host, because you wouldn't be doing it otherwise, but hopefully you have the host, and then the question comes is, what can you do to mitigate making the environment favorable for the host, but not for the pathogen or not for the insect? And then also considering in the insects, it's the time factors and how the environment and time interactions go to sort of cycle up and build a population in terms of rates. And so by understanding some of those interactions can help in terms of making some control decisions, because just seeing something doesn't mean you need to control it. But you need to understand that if things aren't changing, if you're heading into dry, and or what is the environment how is that going to influence which pests you're going to see? That's kind of where I wanted to make a point of this slide. Just a few best management practices for pest management. You'll note I'm using the term management, not control. Management is sort of maybe more holistic in terms of we're trying to reduce things to a point where we're okay with it without spending a fortune on it. And we're also not trying to nuke the planet and nuke everything that we're seeing. Not that I'm opposed to spraying, I'm just saying. So these are a few things. So it's important to accurately identify problems, and also be aware of which problems you're going to see. So paying attention, I think Richard's point about boots on the ground is critical, is you got to be out there looking around for what's happening now, and what is a problem, what isn't a problem, I'll just give you a quick example. I was having a chat with my wife the other day, and she said, I saw all these pests on this thing. And, realistically, they were probably not pests. They were just insects that were happening to be in place. And so it's important to understand what's a problem and what isn't, and also know when you can expect a certain problem to occur so that you're paying attention for it, and also what conditions are going to likely lead to that particular problem. Next is to understand what's happening in the population. So so if you see a pest, you're out scouting, you see a tarnished plant bug, you see one. Okay, is that a problem? And if you scout again a week later and you see 100, okay, well, population's increasing. That's a concern. But you need to understand what's happening. Is the population increasing? Is it decreasing? Is it flat? Are the conditions such that, this disease is not likely going to become and continue to develop? What's happening? So understanding the population changes allows you to make management decisions. The next suggestion is to target specific stages. Don't go out and, in retribution fashion going, and so I'm going to kill those whatever out there, it doesn't, at some point it's, Tam's thing of the barn door is already open, the horse is left, so what exactly are we going to do about that? So it's important to go after the most vulnerable stage where you can have the most impact on the life cycle of that pest or that pathogen. What can you do to protect the plant, or what can you do to knock that population down in a significant way? Where Richard talked about peripheral, not on that term, but the awareness of being aware of the peripheral impacts of any sort of pest management that you're doing. If you're out there and you're just, it's convenient to spray because I get time in the middle of the day, well, that's when the bees and the other things are out there. That's not ideal. So, where are the beneficials, where are the pollinators, and where are the humans, all making decisions on controls based around avoiding bad impacts on other things. We don't want to kill all the pollinators. We don't want to kill our workers. So, adjusting your applications, adjusting your controls based around that. And then the next piece is that, always being aware of pesticide, the nuances of the pesticide themselves. How are they formulated? What's their best? How do they need to be applied? What's their pre-harvest interval, their re-entry interval, what pests are they targeted for? One is not necessarily the same as another. You can't just say that's blah blah whatever the active ingredient, or this is a group something. You need to look at each one and make applications based around that. And then I would recommend having a toolbox that is fairly as deep as you can get it, as big as you can get it, so that you have choices. Because you're going to run into times when it's like you really can't afford to just use any old product because you don't have time for a 7-day pre-harvest interval. You've got time for 1 or a 0-day, and you got to be able to get it in there so it's not going to hurt the pollinators and whatever. So paying attention to those details on the pesticide label is critical. Okay, now we're going to look at some pictures and show you some things here. I want to show you a little bit of a rogues gallery of some of the common insect pests. This is not a complete list. Obviously, there are lots of things out there, but I want to hit some of the more common insect pests, and I'm going to do this again for diseases, and we'll talk a little management strategies for some of the most common ones, and hopefully this will be of benefit for you. So I have done up these charts. They were adapted from some charts I saw out of Manitoba a long time ago, but I've really found them useful to visualize when the different life stages are present of the insect, especially since some of them are the ones we want to take out. We want to kill those ones, as opposed to, it's all, pretty butterflies and moths, whoop-de-doo. We want to kill the caterpillars, right? We want to kill the young, not the old, because the old ones are just, they're just, having fun times and doing nothing otherwise. So here's I'm going to show you a couple of charts. This is just showing, eggs and larvae, adults, pupae, nymphs, just depending on what it is, and just showing you some of the times of when things are available, and typically in our season. I mean, is it going to shift a little bit? Sure. Is it, warmer, cooler, whatever? It might shift things around. But generally, we can get a pretty good sense of when things are going to occur for the most part. Okay, so let's just give you kind of a ballpark idea. You can take a boo at. This is another one just to showing you, and you can see for some things like, aphids. Well, when they're here, right? And I mean, I can definitely underwhelm you with the information I have on aphids, in that, basically there's a lot of them, and their population's going to increase. If you see an aphid, there's more aphids on the way, for the most part. So, but other ones, it's important to know, okay, when are the eggs there? We don't typically target eggs when we're after, for controls. We're typically either going after larval, like immature stages, or we're going after adults. Just depends. So sometimes we're trying to stop mating, and other times we're trying to kill the young ones. Okay, so let's take a look. So Tam mentioned tarnished plant bug or lygus bug. It's a problem, definitely. Here we have the distinctive yellow triangle on the back. And here the nymph looks a little bit like an aphid, but they run really fast. They kind of skitter along, whereas an aphid's kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to kind of mosey along with my 1,000 daughters, and I'm going to just keep piercing and sucking, whereas the nymphs and the adults will feed on the seeds, and you can see where there's been damage. And then this is what leads to, when the seed doesn't form properly, you get that flesh doesn't form around it. So for these ones, we're monitoring for adults and nymphs, and we're going to target both adults and nymphs when we're applying. We're not going to go after any other stages because we really have no impact on those. Okay. So as far as management goes, our biggest thing is monitoring, getting out there early, catching the population before it has a chance to take off, and then apply those registered chemicals at a timely manner. So we monitor when flowering starts, and we need to typically we need to pick products that have a short pre-harvest interval, especially in the day neutrals, but in the June bearing types, we still do, because we can't just, they're not all going to bloom in one day. They're going to bloom over a period of time, and so we need to make sure that we're able to control populations as they shift. We can control weeds that are alternate hosts, and we should be careful to be aware of alternate host crops that are too close to our fields. I mean, that is almost impossible to do in Alberta. I think I don't know where you'd have to live to not have alternate hosts nearby. But ideally, in a perfect world, we would avoid being too close. But the other thing to consider there is to say, okay, alternate hosts are nearby. So when am I going to potentially see an influx, and when do I need to step up my control game? So when is harvest happening somewhere else that might shoot a whole bunch of population over to me when they suddenly depart the other crop? So mites, there's a number of different mites. They're not true insects. They're more like arachnids or whatever, but we'll get into the biology of them. But ideally, we're going after any mobile stages. Here on some of these pictures here, this is a two-spotted spider mite, and here's some of the damage we see. You're typically going to see them in hot, dry weather, hot, dry conditions, very dry conditions inside. If you're doing any tunnels, they're typically going to show up in there. You'll see the webbing, you'll see the dusty, dry. They just kind of have a kind of a dryish look. Other types of mites will feed in growing points and things and cause this kind of weird sort of it's deformity, really more of the cyclamen mites kind of things. And I show you this picture here just to show being aware of the control products and what they'll do. Because they're not true insects, they don't necessarily fall under the realm of, our old chemistry kind of took out anything. And that's what you see here is the one product they had applied one product here, and it had spider mites on the label, and it took it out nicely, and this new product didn't, and so it wasn't effective on mites, and so this is why they saw all sorts of issues here. So it's important to be aware of that. When you're dealing with mites, you're not always not playing in the same arena as with some of the other insect pests that you're dealing with. So just being aware. I forgot to include the how to control them slide, but that's fine. I mean, the big thing is to be aware of environmental conditions and watching that hot dry is typically a pretty good indicator of where they're going to be, and expect them inside. If it's inside and protected, they're going to get spider mites. So, but if you're inside, you could probably go with some biologicals that might be effective. Other ones you might see: strawberry clipper weevils, and root weevils, both weevils, so they're sort of beetles. And the clipper weevil, you'll be out looking for the adults that are feeding, and then they'll go down and they'll clip the buds, and so you're out scouting fairly early on. The root weevils, you're looking for the females are out notching the leaf edges, feeding on the edges of the leaves, and they're a nocturnal type, so you're going to be out looking for that. So we're going to target, typically with the we're going to target adults if we can knock them back before they can lay eggs. And in the clipper weevil, we'll probably, if we can get a systemic in, we might take out the larvae inside. So for clipper weevils, we want to try to cut down on trash. It just potentially reduces the overwintering sites. If you've got a pretty heavy infested planting, keep the new one away from it, because they're not going to fly, they're going to kind of wander. And so they're going to, if they're right next to it, you can just kind of have it spread right in. And if you can take out the old field right after harvest, you can typically knock out the pupal stage, which is it'll be sort of a developmental stage that occurs in the top of the soil. And so if you can knock that out by some quick tillage, that can potentially knock them out a little bit. For root weevils, shorten your rotations, keep your fields isolated from any wild plants that might harbor the weevils, and then you can knock them out with chemical controls, especially if you can find the damage. Probably spray at night when they're active and then knock them out. So we're going to go after the adults so that they don't lay their eggs. Cutworms, these are, I mean, you can see the pretty moth here. I mean, cutworm is a cutworm. Really, it's just it's a lepidopteran pest, so it's a butterfly or moth larva, and so they're going to feed down in here. So your symptom is going to see where you see like problems in the field where you've got missing plants. Theoretically, we could control this with BT. Like, you'd have to, again, a night spray, but being out scouting and looking for damage and then going after them that way. I included spotted winged Drosophila on this slide as well, just with my own wonderful art here, but only in the sense that in Alberta we do have spotted winged Drosophila, not in huge populations, and typically in the late season. We're lucky that it doesn't carry through the season, but we will typically see it in late strawberries and for sure in raspberries. But it has a very quick, like, it can, in the right conditions, this thing can cycle and spin the population wheel pretty fast. In less than a month, you can multiply very, very quickly. So it is an aggressive problem, and is a problem all sorts of places. But we will typically go after the adults, so they don't lay any eggs. But there's all sorts of different monitoring techniques for this. But I just want to include it. It's in the scouting we've done in Alberta. It hasn't showed up too many places, mostly in southern Alberta, but it has popped up once in a while. We see it in central or north. So for managing SWD, the big thing is about sanitation, getting rid of any type of fruit that might be left over, getting it out of the field and burying it, freezing it, solarizing it. Don't leave it to compost, because what's happening is the larvae are maggots inside the fruit, and then they turn into pupae, which look like, I'll go back and I'll show you, they look like little aliens with little antennae. They're kind of cute in a gross way. But they'll be inside or outside of the fruit, and so you don't want that fruit to carry through, because it's going to continue to shoot out little adults here and there. So we want to avoid that. Basically, we're going after the adults. That'd be the main thing. Aphids, encouraging natural controls. Knocking out populations. I mean, typically if you're out scouting, if you can find, and you can probably spot spray to knock them out. And I would usually recommend hit them and then hit them again in about a 10 weeks or 10 days after, just to hit them a second time. But just be out looking. They're not, I mean, they're there. We have some more concerns in recent years with other types of aphids that are potentially spreading viruses and things, but aphids are pretty easy to recognize. Leafhoppers included. I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of damage from it in past, but it's there, and it looks a little bit like the cyclamen mite damage, but it's where they're feeding and they're transferring. That could cause hopper burn and some weird symptoms. So they're feeding in that new growth, and that causes the plants to come up distorted. So, but we're going to go after adults with the aphids. I said all stages because, you know, that's mom, that's daughter, there's the granddaughter, you know, they're just popping everybody out. So everybody on, we just want to kill them all. That's basically it. Thrips, I don't know, we see them tons, but they're out there. They look cigar shaped, very small, and they'll cause some bronzing or bract necrosis. Again, not something that would be super, super common. Another one I include here, the meadow spittle bug. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you do see it, you'll see it everywhere. But it's mostly the ick effect for people. So if you see the foam, I would personally just, you know, if you get a chance to spray it down, they're kind of like a weird little aphidy leafhopper kind of a thing, but not a huge major damage thing, but they're there. A few diseases let's take a look at here. And for the diseases, it's important to understand when they typically are going to occur, linked to environmental conditions, what plant part are they typically on there, and how do they transfer. So here's a few. Again, I'm going to talk about 3 of these, really, but the key thing is understanding the weather conditions is huge with diseases. It's all about moisture, and also whether they're spread by spores, are they coming out of the soil, that kind of thing. Okay, so botrytis, gray mold, very common. As it rots in, it sort of has this infection zone where it kind of breaks down the tissues, and you know, it can kind of lurk unhidden, but you can taste it in the berry, and then it produces tons and tons and tons of spores, this gray mold. The more that you have, the more it'll spread from even, you know, start on the old aged fruit, and then it'll move even into the immature stuff. So our key here is to protect the fruit. Definitely. So protective fungicide applications from bloom to harvest, especially if things are cool and wet. If it's hot and dry, maybe we don't worry about it as much. But we do need to, once there's moisture, we got to worry about that. Tam talked about the straw mulch barrier, and that's key, making sure that we've got a nice, clean straw mulch barrier under the plants. And then that when they sit there, they're not sitting on the soil. And then anything else we can do to kind of make sure that nothing sits around rotting or aging or becoming more sensitive. And then watching our nitrogen fertilization is key too. Powdery mildew, this shows up often we say it's sort of later season, but can show up in the mid-season. It causes a bit of this kind of curling on the leaf, but you can see these little dry, powdery lesions on the surface, different from the botrytis, which kind of has a soft rot component to it. In some conditions, you may see it on the fruit. Big thing for these ones is to protect the foliage for the most part, and to control on the foliage. It probably won't show up on the fruit if you keep it off the foliage. So the big thing here is removal of debris, making sure you've got a good airflow and ventilation. It likes high humidity conditions, stagnant, stale air. And then if you can knock it back early when you see it, with a appropriate chemical, you can knock it back pretty good. Otherwise, that's probably the best thing I can suggest for that one. Common leaf spot or Mycosphaerella leaf spot shows up, looks in different ways depending on the variety you'll see, but it has a kind of purplish spot with a light center. Sometimes that center is a little less pronounced. You know, it's a foliar problem. And so ideally we start with clean material. There's varietal differences in terms of susceptibility, so we can play around with that. But in our neck of the woods, we don't have a lot of varietal options, so that's not necessarily ideal everywhere. If we can take out infected material, that's great. Not really practical, but be great. And the other thing is just being aware if we have a problem with it, avoid working it when it's wet, because it does transfer very well from plant to plant. If you're moving through, you can do that. And so protective fungicide sprays would be appropriate for managing this problem. I just want to give you a couple of slides on scouting, just and recommendations. This goes back again, kind of cycles back to, so being aware of the potential pests. So scouting only works if you know what you're looking for, if you're out there. If you don't go scouting, I mean, if you scout at 100 an hour down the road, you're not going to see anything. Or if you're picking it off the grill afterwards, that's not really that applicable. So being aware of what's out there, when it should be there, what stages you're looking for, where are you looking for it, and when are you looking for it, can help you stay ahead of the pests. When you're out scouting, you don't have to check every plant. It's unreasonable to look, but do follow a zigzag pattern, sort of moving through the field, or whatever pest you're looking for might, if a pest doesn't fly, if it only walks in, check the edges first. Watch the areas where you expect to see it and work from there. Look all over the plant, under, over, inside, and out. Checking that plant for all sorts of different things, looking for symptoms, signs, and whatever. For anything that lurks in the nooks and crannies, like hides in the armpits and in the flower blossoms, tap them onto something. So white paper, a white pail, a metal pie plate, whatever. Give them a slap, knock it on there, and then see what crawls out. Sometimes you breathe on flowers and then give them a tap. That'll activate thrips or other things like that. But check the whole plant, not just, yeah, that plant looks happy, because happy now may look happy later. And then if you're checking, you notice a problem, mark it, and then come back the next time and check that again and see how the population's changing. So this is the process for monitoring for tarnished plant bug. I'm going to show you a little video here as well. But so scout the field perimeter in new fields, or if it's an entire field that is established, check the whole thing. Pre-bloom to green fruit stage, then you're going to use this white pail or a white non-metallic pie plate or a bucket lid. Tap them and shake the plants, or I'll show you this here. They're going to give you this. These plants get slapped pretty good. They don't mind. So you go along just checking here. This wouldn't be the correct pattern really, but essentially you're counting the nymphs per 100 clusters, and then your economic threshold is 1 nymph for inflorescence. So if you tap 100 clusters and you find, 100 nymphs, okay, then you're at that threshold. Otherwise, I mean, you can adjust that threshold. If your tolerance level is very low, well, then spray earlier. But this is the idea here. I mean, if you were going to go follow that same process, you could go along and tap, you could check, you could look under the leaves, and that kind of thing, and then they'd be all set. Oops, sorry, I started the thing again. Anyways, that's just a look. I mean, when it comes to controls, I mean, there's so many products out there. I mean, there's not that many products out there. There's just a lot of things. So it does take some work, but do go looking, see what's registered. I like to use the PMRA website. It's not very user-friendly in terms of searching, but it is the final word on what's registered in Canada. And so follow that. Otherwise, that's all I got to suggest in terms of that. I guess I could take some questions, but I'm sure there's other people that want to talk about some other things. So,
Rob, what is that website you mentioned again?
The PMRA, Pest Management Regulatory Agency, it's a division of Health Canada that the national organization that regulates all pesticides in Canada. So if it's for use in Canada, it's been registered by them.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, they have it's a search engine. It's kind of terrible, but it still works. I mean, you can use it, and you just have to search through it. Like once you'll generate more options than are actually real. You have to look through each label, but you can pull every label up and actually look at it. And it does allow you to sort of find out what's actually illegally allowed to be used in Canada. And they do little checks once in a while, pretty infrequently, but they do check. So, okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I have a tarnished plant bug on a curled burdock weed in my garden that's somewhat close to my strawberries, but not near my strawberries. And it is full of ladybugs. Now, my question for you is, because there's ladybugs on it, do I remove the weed and risk the tarnished plant bug to move to the host of the strawberries? Or do I leave the weed and let the ladybugs kind of do their thing and just maybe target and treat the weed with the control. Then kill my ladybugs.
Well, the ladybugs are probably are feeding on something else. They're probably going after aphids and stuff. If you found one tarnished plant bug on there, I wouldn't be. I mean, I would scout if it's a new field. I would scout the edge and start scouting your strawberries and worry about them there. But I wouldn't take out the weed, especially if it's got other beneficials on it. I wouldn't take that out.
Okay.
But I would scout. But I would increase your scouting on your strawberries. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Rob, we've had a customer say that they've got native aspen poplar surrounding their fruit orchard, and not particularly a strawberry problem per se, but there's what they're saying is kind of a sooty mold on the tree branches, and it's now moving in onto their apple trees, and it seems like it's killing them. And we're just a bit at a loss as to what this might possibly be. Any
So you said it's a sooty thing on the aspen?
Yeah, it's a sooty thing on the aspen, and it's moving on to the apples. And they say you can wipe it off, or wash it off. But if they don't, and even maybe if they do, I don't know. It seems like that part of the tree dies. Could that be apple scab? Is that how that looks?
Apple scab's more on the fruit, I think.
Yeah.
That sounds like, I mean, is it right now they're seeing that?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay, because I mean, later on I would say, well, it's aphids and there's just honeydew and then the mold is occurring, or sometimes you get scale there's a scale that causes like that on elms and stuff. You get that black coating on the trunk.
Yeah, they might be a branch and there's no bugs on it, but you can definitely see this sooty thing on the branch.
Weird, because I'm not sure what would be that would be there, especially moving from aspen to apple. That's a weird jump. You can always send it in, take it into the lab and at CDC North, and they do testing. You can get your fieldman to take it, or whoever. If you know a person, get them to they'll do the testing for you. But otherwise I'm not sure what that would be.
Interesting. Yeah, don't know.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions? Not seeing anything in the chat, so I think we're just gonna go ahead. It's 8:25, so we don't have a ton of time, but we do have a last segment, and it's the peer-to-peer panel. Tam, did you receive the questions that we prepared for? Oh, okay. No, I think you didn't print it. No worries. I have it right here. So just a couple of questions. So first up for Richard, what has been your biggest win or lesson learned this season related to bloom management and pest control?
Yeah, so I know one thing I've really noticed this year is we have a lot less dandelion and thistles in our strawberry fields this year, and I think that's been partially we use a hooded backpack sprayer to spray just those plants. With strawberries being a perennial, some of those perennial weeds are really hard to get out of the fields. So I think over the past few years of really keeping out of them, we're really seeing a decline in the number that we have in the field.
Okay. Next question that I have is for Laura, and it's related to marketing. So, so what marketing channel has been surprisingly effective or ineffective for you this season?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually appreciate your presentation from the beginning, because I think that piece around understanding your customer is more than the marketing channel, right? Because each one of our customers are going to different channels. So sometimes we'll make an assumption. For example, I'm comfortable on Facebook and maybe not as comfortable in Instagram. I have not ventured into TikTok yet, but I think that that might be where some of my people are. So I think some of those pieces, when you're thinking about what channel, is really directly relating to where your customers are, and I guess what's relatable and entertaining and informative and value add for them.
Thank you. And still for Laura, how do you use storytelling in your marketing to build customer loyalty around your farm and products?
I mean, I think that's exactly, the storytelling is the piece, right? I mean, that's where people are looking for something that's going to be relatable, where they can see themselves in what we're sharing. They want to see, it's all, to me, it's all about authenticity, right? They're okay. They want to see my mistakes, see what's happening. Most of the time, if I share one of my bloopers, that's probably the most popular, because everyone else has done it, or, hopefully maybe I can help some people not make that mistake. So I think the stories, the reels, I mean, I think that is around that real life. This isn't something they're just watching on social media. We really are here, and we really want to share what we're doing and bring more people out. I think that Tam was sharing about that agritourism, like having all of this, having places for people to share the experiences, the building memories. That's what we want to do. And I think us sharing those memories ourselves help people see that.
Thank you. And talking about sharing, earlier I said that I would be showing a video that Tam posted, but since we're kind of running out of time, I'm going to skip that part, but I'm going to welcome everybody onto our Facebook page, the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association Facebook page, and check out what we post. And we also repost. So whenever one of our members has anything interesting to share, I make sure, and Tam as well, she's very active on social media. We make sure to reshare the content and yeah, spread the word. So now, just maybe one more question for everyone. How do you personally stay inspired or continue learning in your business? Is it through networking, events, experimentation on the farm, or something else?
I could go first for this one. We definitely, on our farm, we love to go and attend different conferences and farm tours. One of the ones that we try to go to relatively regularly is the Niagara Fruit and Vegetable Conference. It is a great conference for fruit and vegetable growers. It's always got new topics and as well as some ones that have had new research and are a good reminder on things you plan to do. And then going on farm tours, it's just great to see what other farms are doing and taking inspiration from them to bring back to your own farm, and get that inspiration from them, that to see where you can take your farm and what you can do with your farm, especially especially some of those bigger farms out there in different provinces or down in the States that are just so massive, and it's so inspiring to see what they've done with their farm.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to answer that question?
I can chime in here. I do love sharing farming with the young people that come out to our farm, and they inspire me every day. We have old college students that have taken horticulture, and they have such great questions, and their eyes get all sparkly, and they're excited to learn. And we have international students from Australia and from Scotland, and it's so interesting when the mix comes together and we all learn from each other. So that's how we keep it going and get excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone else that would like to chime in?
I mean, I think I would just thank you guys so much. I'm so pleased to be able to be part of it. Being new to farming, fruit wine, and all of these pieces, just having this wealth of information, having AFFPA be available and being able to be involved, I'm inspired constantly. I felt like from all the presentations today, I have learned so much. I'm like Googling many extra things and we'll probably be calling everybody afterwards. So thank you just so much for being there and everything that you've shared.
Thank you, Laura. Well, I guess this is the end of our presentation. It's 8:32. All this talk about strawberries, I'm gonna dig into my stash now. A little bit of a late snack for today. So again, thank you so very much for your contribution, for your attendance. And I will be sending out the replay for all the people that weren't able to make it tonight. So thank you so very much. Have a good night.